Hey guys, Technomentary here with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the iPhone XR or the XR and if it's worth buying in 2021. In this video, we're going to talk about the hardware, the software, and finally to answer the question whether you should still buy the iPhone XR or not, or if you should upgrade to one of the newer phones. So stay tuned. But before we go ahead and get started with today's video, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in market for one of the newer phones and looking to get a discount, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section where we're hooking you guys up with some of the most cheap discounted iPhones you can find on the market currently. So let's go ahead and get started with today's video. So the iPhone XR or the iPhone XR, depends on how you pronounce it, came out in 2018 of October. So it's been well over 2 years since the release of this phone, and this phone itself is a little bit cheaper than its other flagship counter phones such as the iPhone 10 and the 10s or the X and the XS. So it's a little bit cheaper than those, and it comes in a multitude of color. As you can see here in my hand is the product red edition or the special edition of it, and you can actually get this phone in a couple different other colors. They also have this in your white color, you have the black edition one, you also have that blue one, and then the coral, and of course you have the yellow one, and then the product red edition one, which I found the most unique, hence why we have it here. So as you can see with this phone, the reason why it was a little bit cheaper, it all comes with the whole display itself. As you can see, the phone does have a good display. It's known as liquid retina, the 6.1 inch, but it does not have the OLED version like the iPhone 10 and the 10s and the 10s Max does. Hence why the price point for this one comes in lower. It's around, when it was released, around $749 for the 64 gig model, and then if you went up to the 128 gig for that extra boost in storage, you were going to pay a $799, and then lastly you were also able to get the 256 gig one, which is the highest this phone went up to, and you were going to pay around $899 for it. Of course, since then the price has dropped. It's been 2 years, and typically Apple products don't go down in price as much, but you're now able to get the base 64 model brand new under $499 or so, depending on where you look at. That's why check out the link in the description that we have included if you guys are in the market for this phone or any of the newer phones, as you can get this phone pretty cheap out there right now, and still does some phenomenal job. And we're going to talk about the hardware and the software later on in the video of this phone. As you saw here on the phone, the body itself is aluminum body, which is pretty much the standard for most iPhones on the market. The body is pretty slim in terms of the overall body shape. As you can see, the rounder edges, versus the newer iPhone right now in the market is the iPhone 12 lineup. Here, as you can see, we have the 12 Pro, which has the square edges, more bulkier, sort of this military grade, versus this one where it's more rounder. So that's kind of one thing you'll notice between it. The other thing to mention on the iPhone XR, why it's a little bit cheaper, is that it only sports single 12 megapixel back camera, versus the other lineup such as the X and the XS when it was released around those models where they have the dual camera. Hence why Apple was sort of able to cut down on the cost itself, besides the OLED screen that this phone doesn't have. But Apple does mention that the LCD on this display, the Retina LCD, is quite impressive. Although it does lack that bit of OLED technology, you're able to get around 625 nit of brightness, versus on the iPhone 12 Pro, which has around 1200 nit brightness. So you're going to see the sort of that display brightness differences when you compare them side by side. Mostly on brighter days when you're outside and you're using the phone itself. So those are the main things you're going to want to notice between the phone. And the other thing you want to talk about this phone is the battery life on it. The battery life well compares with one of the newer phones. So if you look in video playback time, which is pretty standard when you're comparing batteries, is that the iPhone XR or the 10R gets around 16 hours of playback versus the iPhone 12 Pro, which gets 17 hours. So it's about like hour difference between these phones. And so the battery itself is pretty good. And comparing to a phone that's almost half the price point for the newer iPhone 12 Pro, that's not bad if you're looking for a phone specifically for such purposes. Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit more in terms of hardware. What aspect of this phone is if you're playing games or looking to do really work intensive application such as heavy graphic gaming, or if you're multitasking and have a bunch of things open at once, is where you're going to start to notice sort of the hardware aspect of the phone. This phone does have the A12 Bionic chip versus the newer one, which has the A14 Bionic chip. So this is 2 generations behind. But does that really make a difference? We haven't really seen much of a difference in terms of the chipset. Also, Apple does like to update its chipset on every new flagship phone. It hasn't seemed to be the case where you notice much different, for at least for casual normal users. If you're a heavy gamer in terms of you're playing like Fortnite, or if you're playing in PUBG or any game that's meant to play on the console, might as well get away from using iPhone, because even though these does a phenomenal job for that gaming, it's still gonna not give you that same experience as you do on the console itself. So let's talk about the other major part about the iPhone experience. It's the software itself. So if you're a normal user that's looking to do mostly calling or even just texting, you're not gonna have to worry about that sort of thing on the iPhone 10R. The iPhone 10R does an exceptional job with those things. If you're a normal user just looking to call, text, or even just do light browsing, even some of the heavier browsing, doesn't matter. The iPhone 10R does that pretty well. If you're going to, for example, browse around, you'll notice that the browsing experience on either on your cellular device or even on Wi-Fi, even if you have a decent connection, the browsing experience, it's gonna be good. You're not gonna notice any lag and such thing as that. Even if you do for listening music, that kind of sort of thing, the iPhone 10R does a phenomenal job. There's no comparison if you use, listening music apps such as Spotify, Pandora, all of that. The phone is meant to do that. It's gonna give you that quality stereo grade speaker. If you're only listening using the speaker, of course you can get the AirPods compatible with the iPhone 10R, and you can hook it up and have that whole Apple experience itself. The other aspect we kind of mentioned was the gaming. So if you're using it for light gaming, like nothing crazy here, like for example Subway Surfers, games that don't require too much crazy graphics, they're gonna play phenomenal. You're not gonna have any issues with those kind of games. We even played simpler games versus the heavier degree games. The one thing you do notice is sometimes the battery on the heavier game does start to feel like it's being used up a little bit quicker versus when you're playing like lighter simple games out there. And like we mentioned, it depends on your usage, of course. And if you're looking to use it for mostly watching YouTube videos or even to record YouTube videos, you can actually record some pretty excellent grade quality videos on this phone, believe it or not. But if you're looking to mainly do YouTube video watching, Netflix, any mainstream platform to watch videos, Amazon Prime videos, all of that stuff works. It's compatible. There's no issue. The LCD display does still a phenomenal job, and because it has that 6.1 display, you don't really feel like the screen size is too small, at least from watching, based on the experience that I had on the phone itself. And if you're a person that likes to use a lot of social media apps like Reddit, for interaction, these kind of apps, what you see here, we're able to load up pretty instantaneously without any issues. If you're a person that uses TikTok, you see all of these apps just fire right away whenever you're opening them up without really any issue. If you use Facebook, same thing here, it just pops up right away and no issues there. Instagram, all of your mainstream social media app, pretty compatible, no issues there. If you're using it for other apps, such as Yelp, or if you use it for Uber Eats, main of those main apps, this is what Apple does so well. It's the app experience, that software stability that the iPhone brings you. If you're using it for things like Venmo, anything you name it, around that features, you're gonna get that experience itself, not feeling any sort of lag or app crashes. And the software itself has been holding up pretty well. Although the iPhone 10R, if you're getting it new, will ship with iOS 12, and right now we're in iOS 14. As you see, we're able to download iOS 14, take advantage of the software. This phone most likely will get 2 more updates, if not 3 more software updates. So we will probably see it update to iOS 16 or 17 in a couple of years when those release. But even after that, the good part about Apple products is that although you might not be on a supported iOS version, you're still going to have another 2 to 3 year of life of the phone without experiencing any app compatibility issues. A lot of the apps will be able to run. For example, if you're on iOS 12, most popular apps still run on iOS 12, even on iOS 11, without really any issue. So to answer the question, to conclude this video, is the iPhone XR worth it getting in 2021? Well, there's a couple things. We mentioned the hardware itself. There hasn't been much change since the iPhone 12 has been released. Noticeable things are, if you're looking to use for photography, of course, you have the triple lens versus that one camera lens. So you're going to get a lot more out of photography. If you're a person that's looking to do photography, definitely upgrade to a newer phone. But if you don't mind that 12 megapixel camera and you're just taking regular shots and videos, and it's able to record up to 4K 60 frames per second without any issue, you're not going to probably notice much difference. So that's where this piece comes in. The other aspect about the difference that you're going to be missing out on the iPhone XR is that the 5G antenna that's available in the US market for the iPhone 12 Pro. So if your carrier supports 5G, the iPhone XR only has 4G LTE compatibility, so you're not going to be able to get 5G, which in some cases might not really matter, considering that that is a newer technology and carriers are still working on getting 5G compatibility fully supported on their network. Besides those two things, the hardware pretty much compares pretty well between the iPhone XR and the iPhone 12 Pro. Of course, if you are looking at the software itself, the iOS 14 is running smoothly, no app crashes or performance issue or even lag for most applications, which are pretty well supported right now on the phone. So our final conclusion would be, if you have the iPhone XR or looking to get the iPhone XR, it's definitely worth it. Early 2021. Of course, we're going to do a video later on the year, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for our opinion. So want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the iPhone XR? Is it worth getting or not? And which phone are you guys currently using? And what do you guys think about if you guys have the iPhone XR? Do you think it's worth using it? And how long have you had the iPhone XR? Leave any comments, questions you guys have in the comment section, and we'll try to look at those and reply to those as well. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.